So hello, everyone. My name is Alexa, and I'm also the co-host here with Lindsay. So today we have Jill Lommer here to present to you all. Jill is a registered kinesiologist who has worked extensively with injury rehabilitation, older adults, and clinical populations, including arthritis, chronic pain, diabetes, stroke, and COPD. Her greatest passion is encouraging and supporting people to start moving and finding their challenging but doable exercise and improve their quality of life. Jill works with people one-on-one, in groups, in person, and like we are here today, virtually. She even has a few pulmonary maintenance exercise classes over Zoom. So if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and we can share that at the end here. But I think we're in for a good understanding of what she does there online. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Jill and let her teach us all about activity and COPD.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alexa. All right, I'm going to share my screen here because I've got a PowerPoint for us all, just because that visual help often makes things a lot more fun. So we're going to talk a lot about activity and COPD. And the first thing to understand when we talk about activity is that there is a little bit of a difference between activity and exercise. So activity is any movement produced by your skeletal muscles, and that's just the muscles that move your joints, that requires energy. So a good example of that would be if everyone were to just raise their hand. That is an activity. We've just performed an activity. If we were to turn behind us, that counts as an activity, okay? Because it used our muscles and it required some sort of energy. Activity can be incidental, meaning it just accumulates throughout your day. So we just use the example of we turned a check behind us. Okay, that wasn't planned, it just happened. And we get a lot of that throughout the day, or it can be purposeful. So maybe you go walk to your mailbox. Okay, that's an activity. It had a purpose, and it's great. It includes all of your activities of daily living. So some examples there would be cooking, brushing your hair, brushing your teeth, chores throughout your household. Those are just things that you have to do in your day-to-day, and those all are activities. And some other examples of how you can add activity into your day would be parking further away. Maybe you go to the grocery store, instead of taking the first spot close by, maybe you work your way to parking a couple stalls away. Sometimes you have no choice, depending if you go when it's really busy. Choosing, you hear lots about people being encouraged to take the stairs instead of the elevator. And if that is an option for you, that's a way of increasing your activity in a day. Now, exercise isn't super different. Exercise is a part of physical activity because it falls within those requirements. But the difference is exercise is planned, it's a lot more structured, and it is repetitive. So if you were to stand up because you had to go grab something, that's an activity. And then if I asked you to do 5 sit-to-stands, so we stand up, 1, down, 2, and you should be joining me if you can. And if you can't stand all the way up, just push your feet into the ground. We've got 3, 4, and one more, 5. Right? Maybe it wasn't planned in your part to have 5 sit-to-stands snuck into your webinar, but those of you who tend to do my classes may have been expecting that. So, but that was repetitive, it was structured. If we were to do it 3 more times, that would be a really great exercise to incorporate in your day. And exercise, there's also a difference where exercise's purpose is to increase or maintain one of your physical capacities. So when we talk about muscular strength, when we talk about endurance, if we're going for a walk, we talk about your balance. Those are all physical capacities that you have. Those are all capacities that tend to decrease if we don't use them. And they tend to decrease a little bit just as part of the natural normal aging process. But those are also capacities that we can maintain or increase through exercise. So you can take an exercise class, you can do your sit to stands, and even when we talk about, I believe all of you, but if not, then at least most of you have performed a breathing exercise. Well, it's an exercise because it's meant to help you increase your breathing capacity and your lung function. Okay. And then they do cross over a little bit where both activity and exercise can be a variety of intensity, and both of them do give you physical and mental health benefits. Okay, so both are really wonderful to have in your life. One is not necessarily better than the other. Again, exercise is a type of activity. But they do serve a different purpose, and it's important. I really want to share that purpose with you, and that'll become a little bit more clear in a couple minutes here. So here's just a quick reminder of some things that a lot of you tend to deal with. So on the left-hand side, we have bronchitis, and bronchitis is more classified by that increased mucus in your bronchioles, in your airways, more thickening and stiffness. And that's where more of that limiting factor to your breathing comes in. And then some of you deal with emphysema, which is where the little air sacs, and those air sacs are responsible from taking the oxygen from the air you breathe in and giving it to your red blood cells to travel all over your body. Those sacs are damaged, some of them. And the reason I bring that up to you is because if we understand what our challenges are with a condition, then we better understand how to overcome it. And not overcome it as in it no longer limits you, but how can we still improve our physical capacities? How can we exercise? How can we be more active, even with this very real challenge that you face? Okay, so just a brief little review there. Because feeling breathless can limit your physical activity, right? All of you have experienced at some point where you're feeling short of breath, and it is a lot harder, and sometimes it's harder than others, to do things, to be active. I've heard stories from clients where they stopped doing their laundry because their laundry was downstairs. And that was a big barrier. And carrying laundry is heavy. That adds to the challenge. So they stopped doing it. And overall, reducing your reduced physical health. And sorry, that should say physical activity. There's a mistake for you. I knew there'd be one. So reduced physical activity negatively impacts your overall mortality and health outcomes. And so what that just means is as we reduce our activity in a day, we also decrease our health. Okay. And there's this fun article, it's called The Chicken or the Egg. What comes first? Because with a lung condition, as you start experiencing that breathlessness, that shortness of breath, well, you start doing less. And as you start being less active, it then further reduces your lung function and increases your breathlessness. So it becomes just this cycle that it takes a lot of work to kind of put things into place to help slow that cycle down. So who knows, maybe there was a period of your life where you became less active and that increased your shortness of breath. or maybe your shortness of breath started to impact your activity. But it is what it is. What can we actually do about it? And some of you are very familiar with my motto, which is you want to make things challenging but doable. And so intensity is key for increasing your activity in a day. Because if we have something that is more challenging than it is doable, you're going to kind of risk more of a flare up. Okay. There's an increased risk of injury. It's quite demoralizing, right? It's not fun to do things that are so challenging and we just can't seem to get them done. And so if something is too challenging, you're not actually going to improve, and the barrier can be too high to overcome. And when we talk about exercise specifically, let's say you're doing an exercise class and an exercise is so challenging that you can't quite do it. Well, you're going to do less overall volume and repetition of that exercise. And then if we're not doing it, we're not actually getting the improvements from it. But if something is so doable, there is no challenge whatsoever in doing it, there's going to be no improvement in that physical capacity because we have to challenge those physical capacities to improve them. There's going to be minimal maintenance. Oh, I went too far, but that's okay. Minimal maintenance. And so really finding this balance between challenging and doable is so, so important. That's how we can actually slow down the progression of your COPD. That's how we can improve your lung function. And an example of that too, of improving your lung function, if it's so challenging and you are asked to march in place for a minute, and we can even do that right now. If you want to join me in marching a little bit, just in your seat. And if it is so challenging, you know, you think you have to move your arms and your legs and you're feeling really short of breath, you can't do it, and you're huffing and puffing. When we talk about the risk of a flare-up, well, it was so challenging that now we've caused a bit of irritation. And if I asked you to just lift up one arm at a time, and for some people, this is their challenging but doable. That's okay. Wherever you're at, that's awesome. You have to start where you are. But if this feels way too doable for you and it's not challenging, you're not going to improve your lung function. Because to improve your lung function, there has to be a challenge. We have to challenge your breathing. And again, not challenge it so much that it doesn't help, but you need to find that balance. And so in my classes, we'll talk about, okay, if I ask you to march, level 1, lower intensity, would be just moving your arms. Okay, so your arms have smaller muscles than your legs. So it is less intense, less energy to use it. Okay, now level 2 would be using just your legs. So your legs are bigger muscles requiring more energy. It's more intense. And then level 3 would be we increase the number of limbs moving at a time. So now we can get our arm and leg going. Okay. And then a level 4 would be you could increase the speed to increase the intensity. You could increase the range of motion. So maybe you're fully lifting up your leg. Maybe you're raising your arm above your head. There's all these ways to increase and decrease the intensity to find that balance. Okay, and it's all about finding where you are at. And then overall, that will improve your physical and mental health. And that really does improve your quality of life when we're able to find that balance. But the number one thing is something is better than nothing. Even if you don't match your challenging but doable balance, adding in something, even 5 minutes, spread out throughout the whole day. Whether it be you decide while you're right after you eat a meal, you decide to raise your arms above your head 5 times. That is still better than nothing. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be a huge change in your life. It just has to be something that you are able to do. And so finding your something, and don't let anyone tell you that there's something that is best for you and you have to do that, right? You have to do your sit to stands only if you're in class with me. You just have to find whatever your something is. I had a group of a group of clients that I challenged to increase their activity in a whole week by 10 minutes. And it did not have to be 10 minutes all at once. It could be 2 minutes a day for 5 days. It could be 2 days of 5 minutes. I didn't care. I said, but 10 minutes. And you decide. Well, some of them decided to plant a little extra something in their garden. Someone decided to dance for 2 minutes 5 times in a week. Some of them did decide to do sit to stands. But it doesn't matter. Just that something is better than nothing. So some practical examples for you, just to have the visual. And again, I get lots of clients telling me how challenging it is to walk up their stairs. And it's so challenging that it's quite the barrier. And I told them, well, why do you have to walk up all of your stairs? If that's too challenging, break it down. I said, can you step up onto one stair one time? They went, yeah. Okay. Can you do it 3 times? Yeah. Okay. So do what you can. Walk up your 3 stairs and then walk back down, and that's it for today. Or rest for a minute and then try it again. And we can slowly build it up and build up your physical capacity to build up to walking up your full staircase. And again, it's not all or nothing. It's not I can walk up the stairs or I can't. It's if I cannot do something in my day to day that I really want to, how can we break it down to make it more doable? So that we can build up to being able to do it all. Another example is if you cannot go for a walk outside, and that could be various reasons. There's lots of environmental irritants outside, right? The street sweepers are out kicking up all this dust. There's lots of pollen. Worst case scenario, if it gets a little smoky in the summer, or just going for a walk outside is not something you are capable of doing right now. Try marching for a minute. You're going a full minute. I don't know. Okay, march for 10 seconds. And then rest for a minute and then do it again. Well, you've just done 20 seconds of marching. Awesome. Okay, and don't be afraid of resting as needed. That rest can be really important to helping you do more of the activity. And again, that accumulation of activity or exercise is super, super helpful. Maybe you're watching TV in the evening. You can lift and lower your heels, just as you see on the left side here. Those seated calf raises, try some right now. Lift and lower your heels a couple of times. I really like that exercise too, because of some new studies that came out, and I actually meant to reference it here. I'll make sure to send it out, but your calf muscles are pretty unique in the way the muscle fibers are laid out, that just some seated calf raises helps your body regulate your blood sugar. So something super simple and easy that you can do 10 of, just lift and lower your heels. 1, it's some good activity. 2, It's helping support the muscles that you use while balancing and walking. And that specific exercise has been shown to help regulate your blood sugar. Or maybe you move your arms. Maybe you have your arms out in front of you and you pull them back and push them back forwards while you're watching TV. I've had people set timers. So they go, okay, I can only sit still for 30 minutes and then I have to pull my arms back 5 times. So every 30 minutes, they pull their arms back 5 times. Now, we're going to talk about our breathing because that's a major challenge and a major barrier for our activity and exercise. And the breathing technique and practicing our breathing to build our lung function will help you do more activity and be able to do more exercise. So there are our 2 types, and we're going to go over what the benefits of each are, and then we're going to practice them. So your pursed lip breathing. This is the one most of you have probably heard a lot of, especially in an exercise class. And your pursed lip breathing, it decreases your breathlessness because it helps to get more air out of your lungs. And the way it does that is the mouth positioning creates some pressure. So if you all just, I'll back up a little bit. Pretend you're fogging up a mirror. So take a breath in and then breathe out like you're fogging up a mirror. Okay. Now change your mouth positioning as if we say, like you're going to blow out candles on a birthday cake. But I like to imagine that there are 10 candles in front of me, because a birthday cake, we all go, but pretend there's 10 candles and you are trying to slowly blow them all out in one steady breath. So we breathe in, we pucker our lips and exhale. Now that does create a little bit of back resistance because of the mouth shape, and that back resistance helps splint open your airways. So when we talked about, especially with bronchitis, where we talked about that thickening of the airways and stiffening of the airways, that helping us splint those open to get more air out, that's how it works to decrease the breathlessness. Now we've got more room for the next inhale. Okay. So when you are feeling short of breath, when you are exercising, what's really easy to do is as we start working harder and harder, we go, oh man, it's hard. We're huffing and puffing. Well, we can control some of that breathlessness by forcing ourselves to pursed lip exhale. Now, another type of breathing a lot of you have probably heard of is your diaphragmatic breathing. And your diaphragm, so you can put your hands just on your rib cage. And when we inhale, your rib cage tends to expand. So you can take a breath in. And we should get some expansion there, and then exhale. Now, what often happens, and this is really common, even for the average person, is what's called chest breathing. And that's where we tend to breathe upwards. The shoulders come up, our collarbones raise up, and that allows us to breathe in. It's a more shallow breath. We're not using our full lung. So that's why we encourage this diaphragmatic breathing. Your diaphragm is a muscle that sits at the bottom of your rib cage. And when it contracts, it better helps you open up that rib cage. And as your rib cage opens up, your lungs fill up with air. And when we practice doing that, we practice taking in that full breath. Well, one, range of motion, it's a better strengthening exercise for your breathing muscles, for your respiratory muscles. So it does encourage the full use of your lungs. It encourages a full breath, which is better for you to get in the habit of. And on a non-COPD side, the diaphragmatic breathing is something I get my both acute pain, so post-surgery, they're dealing with a little bit of pain, and especially my chronic pain people. Diaphragmatic breathing helps relax your central nervous system. And so when we relax our central nervous system, our heart slows down, our breathing rate slows down, our blood pressure decreases because we're entering that relaxed state. So we're going to practice both of these types of breaths. We're going to focus first on our, actually, I'm going to focus on our diaphragmatic breathing first. So on this right-hand side, I'm going to ask that you all place a hand on your belly. And the goal is, as we breathe in, your belly should come out slightly. Okay, so we're going to inhale, think about filling up your belly. And then when you're ready, you can slowly exhale. And the first part to diaphragmatic breathing is to make sure you can get used to breathing in and filling up your belly. It is a skill you've got to practice. Practice it while at rest first. So can we breathe in? And then slowly breathe out. Once you are practiced at doing it in a resting position, then you add to the challenge and you start practicing it while adding in some movement. So a common one I like is I like lifting up the arm. And if you can't raise your arm all the way up, just keep your elbow bent like you're trying to touch your thumb behind your shoulder. And this movement here actually does help you recruit your respiratory muscles, which is why I get you at it, and gets your thoracic spine moving just that little bit. So now let's inhale as we lift the arm, either bent or up, and we'll exhale as we lower down, still filling up the belly. So it's that breath in and out. You can switch sides, in, out. And let's try to breathe in for 3 seconds, out for 5 seconds. So breathing in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once more, in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as soon as you get really well practiced, it's something you want to practice throughout your day. So how often throughout your day can you breathe and rely on your diaphragm rather than your chest, so that you have a deeper, slower breath throughout your day? Okay. Now with our pursed lip breathing, it can be slower when we're at rest, right? So now we're going to breathe in, we're going to change our mouth position, and we're going to breathe out like we're blowing out a whole line of candles. So breathe in, and then again, let's try 5 seconds out. And the goal is you don't want to fully empty your lungs, right? This isn't a one of your breathing tests with your respirologist at the hospital. That can actually make you feel a little bit more breathless. So because we do want to keep a little bit of air there. So again, breathe in and slowly out through pursed lips. Perfect. Now, if you feel up to joining me, I'd like you just to pump your arms. And again, you can do more range of motion, you can do less range of motion, you can do it slower, you can do it faster, whatever feels good for you right now. And we are going to practice our pursed lip exhale. So every time you breathe and you go to exhale, get the correct mouth position. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now, what's important as we start moving is that we often can't maintain that full breath. It usually can't be as slow as it is when we're at rest. And you can rest your arms there. So what I actually encourage people to do if needed, especially when we start doing those cardio intervals where the goal is to get yourself huffing and puffing, right? Make it challenging, is you might not be able to exhale for 5 seconds, and you might be out of breath, but it can be a shorter, sharper exhale with still the same mouth position. So it can be until it starts to slow down. Okay, because again, it's the mouth position that's important about that breathing. All right, we're gonna do one more exercise, breathing exercise, which a lot of you may have done before. It's our box breathing. And the goal is about 4 seconds at each sides, all 4 sides of the box, right? We would inhale, and then with our lungs full of our inhaled breath, we would hold, and then we would exhale. And then with those now exhaled empty lungs, we would hold, and then we would repeat the pattern. So again, if you're not able to do it for 4 seconds, do what is challenging but doable for you. You can always work up to it. And I'd like to take you through 3 cycles of this box breathing. And again, this one is best done at rest. It is a breathing exercise. So if we're focusing on building our lung function, building our breathing capacity, we want to just focus on that. This is not an appropriate breathing pattern to do during exercise. Okay, so I'm going to count out 4 seconds for each of the pattern. And again, if you can't do 4 seconds, please go at your own pace, right? Do what is capable, what is challenging for you, but also doable. So we're going to inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, and relax. So just breathe normally. So again, that is a specific breathing exercise to practice daily if you can. But that is meant to help you improve your breathing capacity. Whereas the other 2, your diaphragmatic breathing is a habit you want to get into. Make that your default breathing. And your pursed lip exhale is really important for when you're feeling short of breath and during exercise. Okay. Now I actually am going to see if there are questions now, because especially with activity and exercise, there can be a lot of questions that are more appropriate to spend more time on and maybe have some practical examples with. So brief little open the floor. What questions do you all have about activity and exercise?
You can either type it in the chat box, or if you want to unmute yourself or put the little hand up, if you can see that on your screen, and then we'll get to you as soon as you pop up.
Jill, how long would we do the boxed breathing? Like for 5 minutes, or how long would we do it?
I would start, if you've never done it before, I would start with just even 1 minute or 5 cycles of it. Because it's really not something you want to feel fatigued from after doing it. So yeah, start 1 to 2 minutes. Usually pretty good. Once you've kind of built up, you've done that for a couple weeks, then you can look to increase the amount of time you're doing that by a minute. But really, you really get in tune with your body. If you do a minute and you feel like, oh, I feel amazing, and you want to try going a couple more cycles, do it.
Thanks.
And was that Kathy?
Yes,
Thanks, Kathy. No, I guessed.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, Jill, my name is Raj Prasad. I recently went to India for about 3 weeks, and there was very heavy air pollution there.
Yeah.
So when I came back home to Canada in Victoria, I developed some problems. My both ears seem to be plugged, and there is a lot of coughing and sputum production. So I don't know whether it is COPD or it is some ENT disease. Can you throw some light on that through the symptoms? My 2 ears seem to be plugged. And there's a really coughing, a production of cough. Sometimes it's white, sometimes it's yellow. So what is the effect of this heavy air pollution, in the throat or the lungs? Have you any idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So heavy air pollution is very similar to any sort of environmental irritant. So that would, right, air pollution, smoke, dust and pollen, those are all environmental irritants.
Oh, I see.
And those environmental irritants can cause increased mucus production because your body's trying to get those
Oh,
irritants out of your lungs.
Oh,
And
I
it can
see.
cause inflammation in the lungs. So for
Oh.
sure, it sounds like you're having a bit of a flare up.
Yes.
So anytime any of you are encountering a flare up, it's really important to get the flare up under control
Okay.
before worrying about exercise.
Okay.
Because again, as I said, with increasing the challenge,
Yeah.
exercise, in order to improve the physical capacity, exercise is supposed to be challenging and challenging so that your body knows I have to adapt.
Okay.
But if your body is not in a state where it can adapt, so you have a flare up, you are ill, then it's not an appropriate time to think about increasing the physical capacity. You actually need to just focus on reducing the flare up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So really, is it? It could be bronchitis. What is bronchitis? Is similar? No, both ears seems to be affected. So the breathing is not difficult. It's just the ears are plugged. So doctor gave me some antibiotics. So I tried. There was some improvement, and he said that don't take too much antibiotic because they cause some bad effect.
Yeah.
So
So Raj, that's really an important thing to go get looked at by a doctor.
okay.
And then your doctor from there, if they decide it's more based on lung function, they'll refer you on to a respiratory therapist.
Yeah.
But definitely go have a check-in with your doctor, okay?
Yes. So thank you very much. I don't know whether it is COPD or is bronchitis. I have no idea. So maybe I have seen that doctor. So he said eventually it will settle down. Don't take too much of antibiotics because they also have some after effects. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
but
very
the
much.
key thing is the pursed lip exhaling can definitely help you in the meantime with managing that breathlessness. Okay, and practicing your diaphragmatic breathing will still help.
Okay.
Just be cautious about your overall exercise. You don't
Yes.
want to irritate it, then it's slower to heal.
Yeah. So this mucus or the stipulant production, that is an indication of infection, isn't it? Infection.
It can be.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
because otherwise, because generally, you know, if you're attacked by some viruses, bacteria like staphylococcus or something like that, the body tries to defend and produce some mucus,
Mhm.
eh? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the best thing would be to just go and see the doc, you know. I
Perfect.
am here in
That's a wonderful
Victoria.
idea.
There is such a shortage of doctors. I don't have a GP, you know, for 4 years, you know. It's awful here
Yeah,
in
that's
BC.
really tough.
Yeah, very tough. No? Maybe I'll go to some emergency then, no, if this is case. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
if
you
you
very
find
much.
yourself challenging to breathe, that's
Ah,
a good idea as well.
yeah, yeah. But I don't think it seems to be COPD, no. I see. It must be something else, no, because ears are infected, eh?
It
Yeah.
can be part of it, Raj.
Yeah, it can be.
It can, I mean, you need to go see a healthcare professional to
Okay.
see.
Okay.
It could be on top of it. So you just want to make sure that you're addressing everything.
Yeah. The
One other,
diagnosis is, you know, you need a correct diagnosis, really. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, you need to know what's going on to treat it. And one thing I want to add on to what Jill said was that, and next month's talk, we're talking about extreme heat and wildfire smoke. And
Okay.
wildfire smoke pollutes the air, kind
Mm.
of like pollution back in the air when you went back home. So,
Oh,
if you go out and there's a lot of pollution in the air, you can see it, or there's wildfire,
yeah.
make sure
Okay.
you're protecting your lungs. So wear a mask,
Uh-huh. I mean,
right?
don't you have some tests, you know, some blood tests, other things to find out whether it's effect of pollution or infection? There's no simple test, eh?
I don't believe so, but this is why you should, like Jill said, go see a healthcare professional to
Yeah.
see exactly what's going on. But in the future, now that you know that your lungs respond to air pollution, you should be wearing a mask. And if it is polluted outside or there's wildfire smoke, limit your
Yeah.
time outside.
Allergy, you know, I don't know, the pollen might cause some allergy. Here in Victoria, we have a lot of cherry blossom flowers, no? But I've been living here for 30 years and never bothered me.
Yeah.
But could be, you know, some of these factors. Okay, thank you very much. I think the best thing would be just go and see doctor. No, yeah.
Yes.
You betcha. Thanks, Raj.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you.
Jill, we have a couple more questions coming in. Do you want to continue it on or do you want to keep answering questions?
Yeah, bring on the questions for sure.
Okay, so I have one from Barbara. Is it true that at birth we are born with diaphragmatic breathing and slowly lose the skill over time?
It is definitely true that babies are the best diaphragmatic breathers ever. They just naturally do it. You've probably had an instance where you've noticed a baby, especially while sleeping, their belly does a lot of work with that belly breathing. So definitely we don't lose the skill, we just become less practiced at it. Which is normal. If you talk about diaphragmatic breathing is meant to relax your central nervous system, then when our central nervous system is activated, whether good or bad, right, we're ready to go, we tend to rely more on that chest breathing. Our bodies are very efficient, sometimes in a really good way, and sometimes in a way that's not actually the most helpful, but it is efficient. So it is easier to chest breathe. That's why we have to consciously make an effort to belly breathe. It is a more purposeful way of breathing. And then we get into the habit of it, which is better. Also, we tend to rely more on our chest breathing when stressed. Regardless of what kind of stress or how much. You may have heard of our fight or flight. Again, that's our central nervous system activating, which predisposes us to that chest breath. So definitely we become less practiced at the skill due to just efficiency, but we don't lose it. Something you can definitely gain. And yeah, I do want you all breathing like babies.
Okay, next question we have that came in. I have a treadmill at home. What would you recommend and how many times a week should I do and how long? I have COPD and pulmonary fibrosis.
Perfect. So great question. The first thing it's always a good idea to start with is increasing the frequency. So if you feel like you can comfortably walk for 5 minutes, start with 3 times a day. And this is going from you've never used the treadmill, you don't walk regularly. Something as small as 5 minutes, 3 times a week can be helpful. And then building your way up to doing it every day, even, or 6 days a week. So first focusing on increasing your frequency, how often you're doing it. Then you start focusing more on the duration. So how long at one time are you doing it for? And there's no perfect number. What I would say to you is start walking on your treadmill at a comfortable pace and go until you are feeling about 4 out of 10 breathlessness. And what that means is 1 out of 10 is you're completely at rest. There's no shortness of breath. 10 out of 10 breathlessness is you can't really even take a breath. You can't breathe. So kind of that 4 out of 10 is you're starting to feel a bit short of breath and it is very manageable. And see how long it takes you to kind of get to that point. And then that's your starting time. 3 times a week, 4 times a week, work your way up and then start increasing the time that you're doing it at.
That sounds good to me. Tanel, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next question is from Stephen, and he just says, I have an exercise question. Stephen, do you want to pop on and let us know what the question is? And don't forget to unmute yourself.
So I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Now we can, yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I can't see myself. Not that I want to look at it, but anyway. So I was ill with two different reasons from last July until through this to January. And then in January, I seemed to have a viral infection underneath the COPD, and it was really, really bad. And I've come out of that, and for the last about a month, like late February, I started because I have no I had no stamina. It was going down, doing the laundry, all those things was really tough. So I started, and I live right at the, I don't know if you know, but I live in the west end of Vancouver, very close to the ocean, and I'm right at the top of the hill, the highest point in the west end, as a matter of fact. So I can go down a street, which is 2 blocks to the water, and I can go down another street, which is 5 blocks to the water. So I have been, so I start gasping when I come up those hills at the end of, so I go for my walks, and it's increasing. I'm walking more and more each day, but I still, I'm not back in any way even close to how I used to be able to walk the seawall, as it were. And I could walk straight up these hills. Slowly but surely, I'm getting better. And so I haven't really talked to anyone about this. I haven't talked to my doctor, or I'm kind of okay relatively. So I just wondered, and I guess I know what the answer is, but if I'm pushing myself up those hills particularly, and I get to the corner and I stop and I'm kind of gasping for air, and then I get it back and I go up the hill, that's probably normal for where I am and what I'm doing. It is kind of the question, and it's okay to be panting for breath and just waiting to catch it again. And over time, like the last time I came up the 5 block hill, I was able to make it the whole way. So I'm feeling like that I'm making some progress.
Nice. There you go. Yeah, hills are definitely more intense than flat. And that's really the whole point of me pounding in the thought of make it challenging but doable is the challenging piece, especially when breathing. You do want to huff and puff. You do want to get to the point in your cardio exercises where it is challenging and you feel a bit short of breath. You don't want to feel like you're gasping for air. You don't want to feel like you can't take in a full breath, right? You don't want to feel lightheaded or dizzy. Those are all signs that gone too far. Rest, rest, rest.
Okay.
But huffing and puffing, absolutely. That means you're challenging your breathing enough that that's where the improvement is going to come. That's why the cardio exercise is so important for helping us improve lung function. So absolutely. And the way you're doing it, breaking it down into small steps, going until you're huffing and puffing and then resting and then doing it again. That's interval training. That's amazing. Got a really good understanding of how to build yourself back gradually. So
Well, I am
that's
getting better. There's no question I have more stamina. I know that now, but thank you very much for,
Yep.
thank you
And
for,
as you're going up those hills and you're starting to pant, get right into your breathing pattern. Even before you start panting, focus on your breathing pattern.
and just push, 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 right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying that it's important to get into your breathing pattern
Oh,
as
okay.
we're moving, and then especially as the intensity increases, you might find yourself able to go a little bit further or recover sooner.
Okay.
But again, you found the challenging but doable. Well done.
Thank you.
Stephen, I think one of the big things is to listen to your body. Everybody's different. So like Jill said, you're doing interval training. Go until your body says stop, catch your breath, take a break, recover, and then go again. And that going again is great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jill, I'm going to read the last question out just for time's sake, because it looks like we're cutting it close. So thank you so much, Stephen. That was a great question. Ranjit has a two-parter, so I'm going to read both parts together. It just was expanded upon. So
Perfect.
Ranjit says, while walking, my oxygen saturation goes down to 88% during a 6-minute walk test. Otherwise, I'm 96% in general. I perform all of my personal activities very well. I am doing my set of exercises for 30 minutes on a daily basis. Please suggest to me how to improve my oxygen saturation. Adding to this, Ranjit has been diagnosed with COPD and has been treated since 2016 with and is on room air right now, no supplemental oxygen. So I think the question is how to improve oxygen saturations during activity.
All right. So I'm going to answer this in a little bit of an adjacent way. And I'm going to explain why I'm answering it the way I am. So if we think about what we mean by oxygen saturation, I don't have an easy way for you to get your numbers up right away. But what I can suggest to you is some ways to improve how good your body can be at moving oxygen around your body and how good your muscles can get at absorbing that oxygen. Because when we talk about breathing, there's actually a couple of steps on how we get the oxygen from out of our body and actually to our cells so that it can actually be used. So if we're noticing, one, it sounds like you have pretty good function, which is a really good start. Because that's really key. If you've got really good function, you don't need to worry as much about the numbers as long as the numbers are normal for you. Okay. So if your function is good, that's the first step. But I would suggest looking at, are you able to increase your duration? So I don't know how long you're walking for. or how long you're doing your cardio for, but if we could increase the endurance a little bit. So an example of that is if you're going for 10 minutes, can we get it up to 15? The second thing would be, how does your body respond with intervals? So increasing the intensity and then decreasing it again. So simple way of doing that is 1 minute of hard work. So the goal is to get to about 5 out of 10 on that breathlessness scale that we talked about. Get yourself huffing and puffing. Keep an eye on your oxygen because you don't want it dropping too low. But if you're feeling good, that's also a good sign. Go for a minute, rest for 30 seconds. That recovery position, whether seated or standing, but you're bent forward, kind of hands on your thighs with a straight back, right? Not rounded, straight back. This is a really good way to help you open up your airways and recover your breathing. Can you do six intervals? So that would be the intensity side. And then the third thing would be strength training. And strength training, I see a lot of people using resistance and using it very quickly. So that's not necessarily improving our muscular strength. That is a little bit more cardio. So if we can do it slowly, no matter what you use. So I've got a water bottle here. So if we use a water bottle for a bicep curl, and you think about trying to squeeze it as hard as you can and lift it like it's 100 pounds, and then slowly lower it back down. I've just activated my muscle. And the more we can get our muscles strong and activated, it does help your muscles get better at using the oxygen as it moves around. Okay, so again, maybe not as straightforward of an answer as you would have liked, but those are kind of the 3 areas: increasing your duration, practicing some intensity, and practicing some slow strength training.
I think that's a great answer. Hopefully that answers your question or helps, Ranjit. Okay, so it's 3 o'clock now. Jill, how are you doing for the rest?
The
Got some
rest is good. I was expecting to be answering a lot of questions because I think exercise can be, we give all of these broad general recommendations, but it really is individual in some sense. So I was really looking forward to these questions that we've been getting to really make sure this is really helping people the best I can.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not on a time limit at all. If there are more questions, I am more than happy.
No, I think people have to actually, they've got other things to head to.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah. Nope. But keep going with your presentation. We'll go until it's done. I think it's great.
Oh, yeah, presentation is done. I went back
Okay.
to look at this. Yeah.
Then I am going to, I think what we'll do is say thank you so much to Jill. I think that was phenomenal. Hopefully it answered everybody's questions. What I'd like to do is just share my screen, and I'm terrible at doing this, so bear with me, my friends. There we go. Lovely. So I just want to remind everyone of next, and this is not showing up the way I wanted to. So we'll just do it this way. Hopefully you can see my screen. If not, it just doesn't want to play with me. There we go. So next month's presentation, I just wanted to do a little plug for. It's April 24th next month. It is the Wildfire, Smoke, and Extreme Heat Action Plan presentation. We are extremely excited about this. We really hope everybody who is here today joins us next month for this one. Our next speaker is, oops, there we go. Her name is Dr. Emily Brigham. She is an assistant professor of medicine at UBC, so University of British Columbia. She also works at Vancouver General Hospital as a respirologist, so we are very excited about her talk. So again, that's next April 24th, and the registration link should be up today, if not in the next couple days. So I just wanted to share that and say thank you again to Jill so much, and thank you everybody for coming. We'll see you next month, okay? This was a lot of fun. I think we're gonna have to have Jill back.